Good morning and welcome back to Live at the Legislature, where every week we sit with members of the House of Representatives to speak about issues going on and looking forward throughout the session. So today our guest is Representative Gene Ward. He serves as the Minority Floor Leader and represents District 17, which is from Ho'okahi to Kalama Valley. Welcome.
Good morning, Kayo.
So we've heard, for those who haven't seen the Senate session right before us, where are we in the session?
Good question to start with. First, we were in a season of loss. We left with mourning on Friday when we had a moment of silence for Senator Akaka. I say in terms of where we are in placing on a map of history, we're in the post-PIE era. I said this when Danny Inouye left, PIE, post-Inouye era, and now it's the PAE, post-Akaka era. Two great legends who helped the people of Hawaii immensely with the funding. And Senator Akaka, Danny, a man who hugged everybody. He loved people. He gave us politicians a good name. You hear Danny Akaka, you say, hey, that's a man for the people. So I'd love to remember, just to remember him at this point is significant. But when we come to the state legislature and where we are, Kayo, this is an important thing, and people must know, we are in the Ides of March. What does that mean? It means the storms of gut and replace have just hit the Capitol. You know what gut and replace is? You don't have a hearing, but we pass a bill by taking the guts out of it and putting in another bill. That's what's going on right now at your Capitol, so you have to be really wise. But more importantly, the season that we're coming in the Ides of March is when this huge storm comes over the Capitol, like the Bermuda Triangle, and suddenly planes disappear, ships go down. We don't know whether it just the way bills are they're gonna come up and say, what happened to that bill? Well, the Bermuda Triangle of the Capitol has just descended. So in the next week, when we start the conference committees that Rickwood just talked about, some bills are gonna say, hey, whoa, I thought we were flying through this bill, and suddenly the bugger's gone. So it's an interesting time, but it's a time when the public really has to pay attention to what's going on. And a lot of the stuff that's not transparent, it gets even less transparent when we get into conference committees. So those are my opening remarks.
Speaking of transparency, we're going to be talking about a few bills, some that have either crossed over again or will be on the floor tomorrow. And so the first one I wanted to talk about was SB 2609, and what it did is it would hide the amounts reported on financial disclosure statements for volunteer members of 14 different state boards, commissions, and agencies. And this was heard in the House on Friday. It received 12 no's and also unanimous opposition from the Minority Caucus, and also received 7 no's in the Senate when it was on third reading. So Representative Ward, just kind of tell us a little bit why you had opposed this bill and a little bit of background behind it as well.
That is a retro step backwards for legislative transparency and legislative openness. Basically, it says if you're going to be on a board and a commission, this financial disclosure ethics requirement is redacted, which means we don't have to know any of your income. Part of being transparent is to be open, not secretive. They say, well, these are for people who make a lot of money, who are the highest qualified, and they don't want to show what their income is. Well, if they're into secrecy, or if they're trying to be rich or hide their riches, well, I don't think we need them. Because heretofore, as with us and everybody else who works for the state government and the city government, we have to show what our income sources are and what the incomes are. So I feel very strongly that people knew what was going on, and with the Ethics Commission being exempted from that, I mean, that's like the foxes saying to the chicken coop, that's probably not a good analogy. The point is, it's embarrassing that we would have a bill that would basically put the drapes over what's going on in the legislature and have it to where people could get on without any disclosure whatsoever. It's really a retrograde. It's probably one of the worst pieces of legislation that we're going to have. And I hope the Senate, as you said, there were seven no votes? 7 no votes in the Senate. That's a broadcasting to where, and this is where I would love the Bermuda Triangle, just to suck that bill down, drown it, and it never come back again. It's an embarrassment, quite frankly. Disclosure, ethics, you know, there was a big editorial just in last week's paper. Ethics lacking in the state legislature. This proves the case that the Star Advertiser has shown that, you know, with bills like this, we don't need to show how embarrassingly lacking transparency that we are. So whatever the motivation for it, and I know it comes out of the Senate, it doesn't come out of the House. It doesn't mean it's squeaky clean in the House, but it means the advocates of the Senate are pushing this for some reason. What reason? I don't know, but I think it sounds more nefarious than it does open.
And we'll transition to something that's very important to the people in your district. It's SB 2571, which would, beginning July 1st, 2019, ban the sale of sunscreens containing oxybenzone.
You know, I have the honor, Kyle, of representing the people in Hawaii Kai that has Hanauma Bay right in the smack middle of it. Hanauma Bay is a gem, not only for Hawaii Kai, but for all the people of Hawaii. It's one of the nature preserves where we have coral that's alive. We have visitors who come. President Obama, when he was here, would take, when it was closed on Tuesday, he would take over the whole bay. He made not only the bay famous, but he also brought attention to the fact that, you know, this is an issue we're very concerned about. So a bill was introduced, I think it was Representative Sparrow, and he and I took water samples to see that oxybenzone, which is part of a sunscreen mixture to keep our faces clean and free from cancer, that stuff in the water, in Hanauma Bay specifically, was not only killing the coral, which had already had bleaching, but it was taking the fish and their hormonal endocrine systems were being screwed up. And then they, from further research, said it happens also in the human system. So what we've got is a bill that essentially is anti-reef fish, and something that we can replace with other chemicals. So the oxybenzone, the sunscreen bill, is not going to hurt anybody who wears sunscreen because there's so much already out there on the market, and there's no loss to the cosmetic industry, the billion-dollar industry that says, oh, we can't do this, we can't do it now. And as you said, it doesn't take place till 2019. So that bill, I think, has legs. I think that bill is and generally, I don't like banning things, but this one is part of that whole process where the chemistry of the American body is getting increasingly confused with the way that we're questioning vaccinations now. We're questioning, why is autism on the rise? Well, if oxybenzone's got anything to do with it, particularly in terms of the sunscreen, hey, let's take it off and let's use something user-friendly.
Representative Ward, thank you for your time, and hopefully we will survive the Ides of March. The folks at home, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.